Yes, Ahmed, am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You were not audible for a while.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Did you completed your assignment, Ahmed?
Science?
Your science
Yes,
assignment.
yes, sir.
Okay, but you haven't sent your assignment. You are supposed to send the assignment before the class starts. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So do one thing. If you have completed the assignment, send the assignment just after the class. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So these were the questions in the assignment given to you. Okay. See the questions. Write advantages and disadvantages of manure and fertilizer. Okay. So before we move on with further topic today, do tell me what are two advantages of using manure.
Sir, manures are natural.
Okay, that is very obvious. It is natural, but I'm asking about its advantage. It is
Um,
natural, that is its property, but what is its advantage of being natural?
um,
You see, in the previous class, we talked about advantages and disadvantages of manure, right? We discussed that being natural, being made from organic products, it is good for nature, right? It does
yes,
not deplete humus of the soil, so it does not kills the humus of the soil.
sir,
Okay,
it improves the soil fertility.
exactly, it improves the soil fertility, although in comparison to fertilizer it contains lesser amount of nutrients for soil,
Yes,
but still it adds fertility to the soil. Okay,
yes,
one more thing is it improves the water holding capacity of the soil.
yes,
Okay,
sir.
it
Yes,
increases water holding capacity.
yes, sir.
Okay, and list two advantages of using fertilizers.
Okay, sir. Sir, sir, advantages of fertilizer. They are quick in providing plants nutrients and restoring soil fertility.
Okay, so small of fertilizers contains much more amount of nutrients. What are
Yes,
those nutrients which are basically present in almost all the fertilizers? They are nitrogen, which we discussed, right?
nitrogen. Yes, yes,
Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. These are the major nutrients required by the plants. Almost all the plants requires these major nutrients. Okay.
yes,
Okay.
sir.
One more thing is it is easy to manage. Since it is easy to manage for transportation, also it is easy. You can simply pack it in, pack it, pack the fertilizers in sacks and transport from one place to another. It is easy to handle basically, right? And it is nutrient rich. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now see second question. What are the things to see while selecting the seed? What are the things to consider while the selection of seeds?
Um, the quality of the seeds
Okay, their quality.
and uh,
What
we should
else?
test them in the water.
Okay, see whether the seeds are healthy or not. That comes
Yes,
in the quality. We check whether they are infected or not. Okay,
yes,
infected or not infected. Okay,
yes, sir.
and we go for variety seeds. Okay, so farmers they consider high yielding variety seeds, HYV seeds. That is high yielding variety seeds. Okay, what are the advantages of using HYV seeds over normal seeds?
HYV.
As
Mm,
the name suggests here, that if you use HYV seeds, the yield is going to be high. Okay,
yes, sir.
the
Yes, sir.
yield is going to be high. That's why we consider using HYV seeds. Okay, now
Yes, sir.
see the third question. Which methods are used for sowing the seeds?
Um,
You see, one is the manual method, which we discussed.
yes,
Okay, in which basically a funnel is attached to a tube in which there are holes, and farmers attach that funnel to the back of the cattle. See here in this image. Okay, we discussed this in previous class, that there's a funnel like shape, funnel like structure which is connected to a tube. Okay, and that
yes, sir.
tube has holes in it, and via that hole seeds fall into the ground. So they basically attach that funnel to the plough which they use. Okay, so they are
Yes,
doing
sir.
two things at the same time. One thing is that they're ploughing the ground also, and to that plough they have attached a funnel like structure. Okay, so two things they are doing here at the same time. Okay, sowing the seeds also and ploughing the land also. Another
Yes,
method was making use of seed drills.
yes.
So seed drills are the modern methods of planting the seeds into the soil, in which in the figure you can see this structure. It has got a very big funnel in which seeds are filled, and it has got multiple tubes attached to it. Okay, Ahmed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
there are holes on that multiple tubes. So at equal distance, seeds fall into the ground when this structure is moved across the field.
Yes, sir.
Right, Ahmed? Okay.
Yes.
Explain the process of germination of seeds, and also list the things required for germination of seeds.
Um, the list required for germinations are water,
Okay.
uh,
Water,
soil,
soil.
sunlight,
Okay.
and
Sunlight
the
sunlight will not be needed necessarily. It will not be needed everywhere. Okay.
oh, yes, sir.
Without
Because
sunlight also seeds can germinate.
yes, because the seeds are under the soil and there would be no sunlight passing
Exactly.
through.
And air is required also.
Yes,
Okay. So these three components mainly, water, soil, and air, is required for seeds to germinate. What is germination? It is basically the procedure where the seeds starts to grow into a plant. Okay.
yes, sir.
Okay. Anyways, now to summarize, we will let's perform a small activity here. Okay. I guess the screen is clearly visible.
Yes, sir.
So let's perform activity here. So we are basically doing this activity to see what effect does manures and fertilizers have on crops. Okay. So in this activity, what we have done, we have taken three empty flower pots. Take three empty flower pots and mark them as A, B, and C. Okay, Ahmed. So we have
Yes,
taken three empty flower pots here and marked them as A, B, and C. So in flower pot A, you are required to put an ordinary soil. Put some ordinary soil in pot A.
yes,
Okay.
sir.
Now in pot B, what you need to do, add some soil mixed with little cow dung manure in pot B. In the next pot, add some manure made from cow dung. Okay, we know that
Yes, sir.
from cow dung also manures can be made. Okay. Now in the third pot, what you need to do, you need to take little urea fertilizer in pot C. So urea is a type of fertilizer here. Okay, urea, it is a
Yes.
fertilizer. Okay, and it is rich in
Yes,
nitrogen.
sir.
Okay, now you need to pour same amount of water in all these three pots. Okay, for a considerable
Yes,
amount
sir.
of time, you need to pour same amount of water on these three pots. Okay, now take some mung or gram seeds and germinate them. Okay, you have to take
Yes, sir.
germinated seeds of equal size. Okay, it shouldn't be of different size, and
Yes.
plant them in these three different plants in equal amount. If you are planting 5 seeds in first one, plant 5 seeds in the other two pots as well. Okay, Ahmed. So keep the flower
Yes, sir.
pots in a sunny place and water them daily. Okay. Now observe the growth of seedlings in the three flower pots after 7 to 10 days. What will you observe here?
Um,
Yes, Ahmed, what will
mm,
you observe?
the growth,
The growth will be same or different in the flower pots. The growth which you will observe, will it be same or different?
different,
It is going to be different. That is very obvious. Why is it so?
because fer- fertilizers are
Because you see,
rich.
in the flower pot A, we neither added fertilizer and nor we added any manure, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, Ahmed. In the second pot,
Yes, sir.
we added manure to it. So it has got more nutrient as compared to the pot A. Okay, Ahmed.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
see, in the third pot, we added fertilizer, which is having more nutrient than the manure. So see the
Yes.
size difference between the plants here. First one is the smallest, second one is slightly longer than the first one, and the seeds grown in the third pot has grown largest out of all the three. Okay, Ahmed.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so that was a practical example of how manures and fertilizers works. Now to summarize the differences between fertilizers, like let's quickly summarize our differences here. So, as you already know that a manure is a natural substance obtained by decomposition of animal wastes like cow dung, human waste, and plant residues. Okay. While a fertilizer is a salt or an organic compound. Okay.
Yes.
Now, a manure is not very rich in essential plant nutrients. Remember, as I told you earlier, remember plant nutrients are what? They are potassium, nitrogen, and phosphorus. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And fertilizers are very rich in plant nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So manures, they also constitute of these nutrients, but in lesser amount. While fertilizers are rich in their amount. And one
Yes,
more
sir.
thing is here that manures provides humus to the soil. So when you add humus to the soil, the water holding capacity of the soil also increases. Okay. While a fertilizer, since it is made from chemicals, it does not contain any humus in it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But there's a disadvantage of manure in context of water, that manure is absorbed slowly by the plant because it is not much soluble in water. So
Yes, sir.
manure, you will see, it is not very readily soluble in water. So hence it is absorbed by the plant, by the soil very slowly. While
Ye-
fertilizer being readily soluble in water, it is being easily absorbed by the plant. Okay. And
Yes,
as
sir.
we already know that Manure can be prepared in the fields while fertilizers are prepared in factories. Okay. Now, so we are done with that part. Now, a question comes to mind that how do we restore fertility of the soil naturally? Can we restore the fertility of the soil via any natural method? Okay. Can we depend on nature, or can we just do some adjustments in the way we plant the crops? Ever thought about that?
No.
Look, there are two methods of restoring the fertility of the soil in a natural way. One is planting leguminous plant.
Yes, sir.
Now you may ask, what are these leguminous plants now? So leguminous plants are peas. Okay, they are plants like peas, wheat, okay, bajra, etc. Now what's special about these plants? What's special about these leguminous plants? How do they restore the fertility of the soil naturally? You see, the thing here is that the roots of these plants contains a special bacteria. What did I say?
Yes.
The roots of
These plants contain a special bacteria.
yeah plants contains a special bacteria called rhizobium bacteria. Rhizobium. Rhizobium bacteria. Okay. Now, what is special about this bacteria is that, remember a few moments ago I told you that plants need NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if we talk about nitrogen, this special bacteria has got capability to fix the atmospheric nitrogen into the soil. Look what is happening here. See here, I'm zooming the screen. See, in the roots, let's say this is a leguminous plant. This is here a leguminous plant.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, in the roots of this leguminous plant, as you can see, these are the rhizome bacteria living here. Okay. Now, in the air, you know, there are different composition of gases. How much is nitrogen there in the atmosphere? Is it 21 or 78?
78.
78% of air. Okay. Now, can plants directly take this 78% of nitrogen?
No.
Because nitrogen present in the atmosphere, it is in the gaseous form. Okay.
Yes, sir.
It is present in the gaseous form. So plants are able to take things in the form of solution. Okay.
Yes, sir.
It has to contain some moisture. It has to be in form of solution. So what happens? This rhizome bacteria, it takes the nitrogen from the atmosphere and converts it into compound. And when we provide water to the plant, that compound mixes with water and forms solution. Getting it what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Ahmed?
Yes, sir.
That nitrogen is in the gaseous form. Nitrogen is in the gaseous form in the air. Okay. Plants cannot directly take the nitrogen from the air. Ahmed, there's too much background noise. Please see to it. Okay. So plants cannot directly take that nitrogen from the air. So these leguminous plants have got rhizome bacteria in their roots. What do? They simply convert the atmospheric nitrogen into compounds. So what is happening here? Atmospheric nitrogen is being converted into compounds. By whom? By whom? By rhizome bacteria. Okay. And when we add water to the soil, what happens? Nitrogenous compound plus water, it forms into solution.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And now since that nitrogen is in soluble form now, it will be easily absorbed by the plant. Okay.
Yes,
Explain to
sir.
me the steps which is happening here. What are the steps? First, what will happen?
Uh, First, uh, the, the
First thing that is going to happen is this rhizome bacteria is going to convert the atmospheric nitrogen into compound. Okay, Ahmed.
yes, sir.
And when we add water to the soil, we get solution of nitrogen. Solution of what? Nitrogen. Okay. So
Uh,
that can be
yes,
taken up
sir.
by the plant and utilized. Okay. Now, what happened here? That plant got nitrogen in a natural manner here. Okay, Ahmed. Did we added fertilizer or did we took help of manures here?
No, sir.
We did not. Neither we added manure nor we added fertilizer here. Simply by planting leguminous plants, we increase the nitrogen content in the soil. So this nitrogen which is being
Yes, sir.
added into the soil, what happens? It is absorbed by the plant. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hence, there is no need to add nitrogen fertilizer into the soil. Okay. There is no need to add nitrogenous fertilizer. Okay, Ahmed?
Sir.
Okay. One more thing is that extra nitrogen is contained by the soil. The extra nitrogen which is not being used up by the plant, it is contained into the soil. It remains into the soil. Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Extra nitrogen is held up by the soil. Okay. So this is the one method of naturally increasing the fertility of the soil. Now see, there's one more thing here. Did you observe one thing here, Ahmed? That let's say for one season I planted a leguminous plant into the soil, and when I planted leguminous plant into the soil, that soil of mine, it became rich in nitrogen. Okay. So in the another season, if I plant non-leguminous plant, if I plant cereals, if I plant cereals, let's say, okay, cereals like what? Paddy, okay, or let's say some vegetables. Okay, so these are
Yes,
non-leguminous
sir.
plant. Okay, they are non-leguminous plant. They don't have rhizome bacteria in it. They don't have the capability to fix atmospheric nitrogen into the soil. So let's say for 6 months I planted leguminous plant. Okay, now after 6 months I am planting non-leguminous plant. So here what is happening here, that when I am going to plant non-leguminous plant, the soil is already containing nitrogenous compound in it. The soil is already containing nitrogen in it. So do I need to add fertilizer, nitrogen fertilizer to the soil while I'm planting non-leguminous plant?
Yes, sir.
Yes. How is it so? Look, Ahmed, let's say in a given year, for the first 6 months, or let's say for January to June. Let's say you planted leguminous plant. Okay, Ahmed. And for another 6 months, July to December, you are planting non-leguminous plant. You are to plant non-leguminous plant. So when you planted the leguminous plant, what happened here? That my soil already got enriched with nitrogen.
Yes, sir.
Soil already enriched with nitrogen after planting leguminous plant.
Yes, sir.
So when I am planting non-leguminous plant in the month of July to December, do I need to add nitrogen fertilizer to soil? Think of it. Stress a little bit. The answer is very simple.
No, sir.
No, that is obvious. Why? Why, Ahmed? A yes or no comes with explanation also. So since the answer is no, that is correct. The answer is no, that is correct. But why? Explain that.
Because, sir, the soil has already enriched with nitrogen.
Exactly. My soil is already enriched with nitrogen. So there's no need to add nitrogenous fertilizer to the soil. Okay. So that is the interesting concept that is called crop rotation. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Crop rotation. So what happens in crop rotation? That for half of the year we grow leguminous plant into the soil, and for another half of the year we grow non-leguminous plant. We are basically planting crops in rotation here. Okay, Ahmed.
Yes,
So
sir.
that is the practice called crop rotation. Okay. So in crop rotation, leguminous and non-leguminous plant are grown alternatively. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So for one season we are growing leguminous plant, right? And in the another we will be growing cereals. Okay. Or non-leguminous plant. Okay, so that is the concept. So these are the two methods of naturally enhancing the fertility of the soil. Okay. Okay, now next thing in the chapter which we have to discuss about the procedure of farming, it is basically the irrigation practice. Yes, Ahmed.
Yes, sir.
Now, what do you understand by irrigation?
Watering the plants.
It is simply the practice of watering the plants. Okay. So it is watering the plants or crops. Okay. Now, before we even discuss about the different methods of irrigation, first we need to talk about why we actually need to provide water to the plants. Like you see, like all the organisms, including human beings and animals, we all need water to survive. Okay, if you talk about human body, it contains around 70 to 75% of water. If you talk about plants, almost 90% of their body is made up of water. Okay, their body is made up of water. Now, if we talk about the importance of water for plant, Importance of water. So first thing is that, you see, if you take example of plants in your home, if you stop watering them for a while, if you stop watering them for a considerable period of time, either you will observe wilting in them, or their leaves will fall off, or after some time they might die even. Okay, so the importance of water for plants are here as I list them. Okay, so first thing is that nutrients in the soil are absorbed by the plant in the form of solution. Okay, Ahmed. Whatever the nutrients are required
Yes,
by
sir.
the soil, they cannot be absorbed by the soil in raw or solid form. It has to be in solution. So nutrients in the soil are absorbed by the roots in the form of what? Solution.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now another thing is that, you see, there are warm air currents also. There are warm air currents. What do I mean by that? You see, there are winds that blows in the season of summer here in India that are called Lu, L-O-O. Okay, must have heard from your parents that Lu wind is blowing. Don't go outside. Take precaution. Okay, drink water continuously in the season of summer so that your body retains moisture. Okay, and you don't count Lu wind. Okay, or there's no
Yes,
dehydration in
sir.
your body. So same is the case with plants also. If there is warm air currents, warm winds blowing, the plants may die. So for that purpose also, to avoid getting damaged by warm air currents, plants need water. Okay. So to prevent
Yes,
themselves from warm air currents, okay, plants also require water. The third thing is that remember the humus which you talked about, which is inside the soil, and we also know that humus adds fertility to the soil, which is very good for the soil. So for the survival of humus
yes, sir.
also, you need to add water to the soil, because the insects and the worms living in the soil, they also need water to survive. Okay,
Yes,
to prevent humus from dying or exhaustion. Okay, now so these are the general reasons why plants require water. Okay, now let's talk about the methods of providing water. Okay, before we even talk about the methods of providing water to the plants, there are two things to be discussed here. Based on climate and based on soil and crop type, water is utilized by the plants in different ways. What I'm talking about, let's say, you see, soils are also of different types. One soil is type one soil is very sandy in nature. Okay, another soil is, let's say, very clay. So if you are growing crops in sandy soil and if you are growing crops in clay soil, which crop will require more water?
um,
Yes, Ahmed, think of the answer.
uh, clay soil.
Clay soil will require more water. Think again.
Oh, sandy soil.
Okay. How is it so?
Because sand is always dehydrated.
Look, Ahmed. The thing here is that your answer is correct, but you have to come with the explanation also. So you see, sandy soils, the percolation rate of water in sandy soil is much higher as compared to clay soil. What I just said is percolation rate is very high. Percolation rate of water is very high. Percolation rate, it is basically the seepage of water inside the soil. So if you ever poured water on sand, you must have observed that suddenly after a few seconds it disappears. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Why? Because the water seeped into the ground very quickly. While in the case of clay soil, percolation rate is slow. It is lesser. Percolation rate
Yes, sir.
is lesser. So that's why if you are growing crops in the sandy soil, you see the water will quickly rush down to the bottom of the sand. That's why you need to provide more water to the sandy soil. Okay. More water
Yes, sir.
is required here. While in the case of clay soil, percolation rate is lesser. Soil retains it. Soil holds the water. While the sandy soil is not holding the water in it. It lets the water pass through it. While the clay soil, it holds water with it. Hence, the roots are able to absorb the water that is held by the soil. Getting it what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. I am.
Very good. So lesser water is required in the case of clay soil. So you see, the requirement
Yes.
of water basically depends upon soil type and crop type also. There are some crops like consider the example of cactus plants. Okay, there are some cactus that are edible also. Okay, consider the example of mushrooms. Consider the example of paddy crops, that is rice. So depending upon the crop type also, water requirement varies. If you are growing paddy crops, that is rice, it requires water in abundant amount, right? If you see the field of rice crops,
Yes,
it
sir.
is always flooded with water. What about the cactus? Do cactus also requires that much amount of water?
No, sir.
No.
Not that much.
So based on soil type and crop type, the requirement of water varies. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Now let's talk about methods of irrigation now. Methods of irrigation.
Okay.
Now, there are two methods of irrigation. One was the traditional method. Another one is the modern method of irrigation.
Okay, sir.
So earlier, when there was no scientific innovation, there was no machinery developed, people used to manually provide water to the soil. Okay, they either drew water from nearby lakes, ponds, okay, or they drew water out of the wells and had developed some primitive and simpler tools to provide water to the soil. That was a very laborious task and time taking task, right? Nowadays we have got modern methods of irrigation in which even water is saved and water is provided directly to the roots of soil. Okay, like you must have seen sprinklers on the farmland. Sprinklers are being used. Water is being provided to the roots of the plant directly, drop by drop. So we will discuss each of the steps in detail. So you see, traditional methods. Okay, I don't have the figures here, so we will be taking help from the book. Okay,
Okay,
in the
sir.
book you will find the figures here. See here, traditional method of irrigation. Okay, so in the traditional method of irrigation, as you see here, there were four basic methods used for irrigation.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Ahmed. See here,
Yes.
First one is the moat, MOAT. That is also called the pulley system.
Police, yes, sir.
Okay. So see the figure here. What is happening here? In the moat system of irrigation, basically what happened that from a well, water was being drowned and poured into the ground directly. So that water from the well is being taken out by using a big container. Here you can see this farmer is holding a big container in his hand, and that container is attached via a rope here. Okay,
Sir,
and there's a pulley here also. You know the concept of pulley.
yes, sir.
Pulley is attached to a bar and it is rotatable. It can rotate. Okay, and see this farmer here on the another side. This rope is being pulled by a cattle here. Okay, so this container was lowered into the well. When it got filled with water, on the another side, this cattle is pulling this rope. So basically, you can see this farmer is manually pouring this water onto the into the cropland. That was simply the moat system. Now later on, farmers developed some better methods of irrigation also. So pumps came. Now see this figure here, this chain pump here. So in this chain pump, basically a chain or on a chain, two wheels were attached. Okay, on the opposite sides, two wheels were attached. So one side of this chain, as you can see, is being lowered into a water body. It could either be a pond or lake. Okay, and another side of this chain is at an elevation. Okay, Ahmed.
Yes, sir.
Now these wheels are continuously rotating here.